All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this presentation, which is part of our GRCC Social Science Race and Ethnicity Conference. This is the 9th of 10 presentations. The last one is tonight at 6 o'clock. So hopefully you've been able to attend more than one of these. If not, we're glad that you're here for this one. My name is Mike Light. I teach U.S. history here in the Social Science Department, and I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speaker today. Our speaker today is Dr. Yen Bai. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree from Zhengzhou University in China, a master's degree from Seton Hall in Public Administration, and a PhD from Texas Tech in Political Science. He's been at GRCC for 15 years. He teaches American government, international relations, Asian politics, and comparative government. So without any further delay, I'm going to bring Dr. Bai up to the stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I'm very glad you are here, and I feel very honored to share my story with you. I got two DVD movies. I mean, you can see there. Have you seen those movies? Oh, right here. I'm not going to play them. One is a flag of our fathers, and another one is the letters from Iwo Jima. Good movies, war movies. I like to watch war movies since I was very little. Now, these two movies are about the battle in Iwo Jima, a small island. It's very small. It's about 1/3 of the size of Manhattan of New York City. So why is this island so important strategically? Does anybody know why we spent? Why we sent 120,000 troops to fight to get back this island? I mean, the importance of the island, because this island is very important in terms of sending our B-29, the bombers to drop bombs over Japan. Before that, it's just Saipan. No, this is not Saipan. This is Iwo Jima. You can see it's the size, right, from the sky. It's about 8 miles square. 4.5 long, 2.5 miles wide. This one is not clear. It's kind of blurry. It's right in here. It's about maybe 700 miles from the island to Tokyo. So if the Americans can take this island, the bombers can fly to Tokyo to drop bombs in a short distance. You don't need to have refill. You can go there and come back with one-time fill. So that's important strategically. But because of this, of course, the Japanese sent about maybe 20,000 troops to fortify for defense. So we got two movies, from two perspectives. From the American side, of course, it's fighting for democracy, it's fighting for the country. At the end of the battle, folks, how many the U.S. Marines died? About 7,000. From the Japanese perspective, the letters from Iwo Jima, of course, it's also defending the country. It's defending the emperor. The island is about 700 miles away, but that's part of Tokyo. The island is home island. It is under the jurisdiction of the city of Tokyo. So they were defending not just the island, they were defending Tokyo as a city, and Tokyo is the capital city of Japan. So I like to watch this movie because director Clint Eastwood approached the battle from, of course, United States perspective and Japanese perspective. It's not a traditional war movie where you see bad guys and good guys. I mean, black and white. I mean, it's not like that. It's very humane. It's about humanity. Here. I mean, this picture is the U.S. Marine, right? And that is a soldier from the Japanese Imperial Army. Right, Japanese Imperial Army. I mean, the two soldiers, right, from the movies, according to Eastwood. The men from both sides fought, right, for the families, for the countries. So, who is the bad guy? I mean, if you fight for your family, I mean, it's self-defense. Self-defense, right? So, I put moral equality. Moral equality, the theory means that when the soldiers take up the arms, right, soldiers of both sides are guilty. They're guilty for being a threat to their enemies, right? As a threat, you forfeit your right not to be killed in the battle, right? But consequently, on the other hand, the soldiers of both sides are also innocent because they're being threatened by the enemies. Isn't that right? So according to this theory, at the end of the day, no moral wrong is committed. All of these are canceled out. Right and wrong are canceled out. Right? I mean, that's not my theory. That's a theory I have read, and I have thought about it for quite some time. Right? So I gave this for you to think about. I mean, again, in this small talk, I'm not trying to tell you any answer. I don't have any answer. I mean, it's something I'm trying to find. Right? So the purpose of this talk is to let you think. Right? Maybe we can, find the answer together. So later on, of course, I will give time to you to ask questions, to give me your answer, right? Your feedback. So think about this: is there a moral equality, right? Are the soldiers of both sides equals in terms of morality? Now, if you apply this theory to today's war, I mean, war in Iraq and Afghanistan, can you say we are morals with Taliban? I mean, right? I kill you, you kill me. The reason I have to kill you because if I don't kill, you will kill me, right? So I'm guilty, yes, but I'm also innocent. Well, the guy, facing me on the other side had the same feeling, same thing. I mean, right? So everything is canceled out. But again, are they canceled out? Are we really morals? I mean, are we really moral equals? Right. So that's the first thing I try to pose to you to think about. Another theory is the theory called cultural relativism. So again, guys, none of you has watched these movies. None of you, no, not ego, yeah. All right. Next week, right, spring break, try to get a DVD from Blockbuster. Blockbuster, not Blockbuster. Think about it. I have seen these two movies about maybe 3 times. So what do you think of this one? It's cultural relativism. Nothing's wrong. Well, who decides what is wrong or what is right? I mean, who gives the right to say, okay, you're wrong, you're a bad guy, I'm good? Now, according to this, well, we call that theory, according to this assumption, well, each one is good, right? Given, a certain context, everything is right. I mean, nothing is like, preferable to another. I mean, wrong and right or wrong must be defined in the given context. Okay, so again, I mean, you stand from, you stand on the Japanese side. I mean, right? Again, okay, you invade us. I defend my country. I defend my island. Right? From the, of course, United States side. I mean, right? You started the war. You launched the, suppress attack. Pearl Harbor. Right? You deserve this. I mean, right? At the end of the battle, we lost about 7,000 Marines. Well, actually, the casualty is greater than the casualty on D-Day. Right? The casualty for the United States is 26,000. The death is about 7,000. The rest are the wounded. Japanese got about 22,000 troops. 20,000 of them were killed. 20,000 of them were killed. Right? Only like 215 of them were captured. As you know, I mean, Japanese soldiers were trained or taught to be like samurais. Right? I mean, in my class, I said that to you before. Right? The Bushido, the way of warriors. Right? They were taught to fight to the end rather than surrender. Right? So again, the question is, are these guys patriotic or fanatic? I mean, the Banzai charges, right? Of course, those guys knew. I mean, they were just slowing the United States progress on the Pacific Ocean, right? They knew they could not stop. But to the Japanese soldiers, it's like, each day they spend here, they can slow down, right? And every day they fought. That means, the people in the main island got one more day to survive. See this? Of course, again, they were aware that everything was doomed, right? There was no reinforcement. There was no air cover. There was no naval cover. There was a shortage of food, water, right? So these guys, fought very tenaciously, I should say. If not bravely. Well, what's the difference between these two words? Bravely is like, use brave for good guys. Right? Tenacious. I don't know, maybe that's for bad guys. U.S. soldiers, yeah. If you see this movie, the flag, they were listening to Tokyo Rose. You know this, Tokyo Rose? A Japanese woman who broadcast to the U.S. soldiers by telling them, right, that Tokyo Rose, she was a student in the United States. She returned to Japan during the war, helping the Imperial Japanese government. But she was good at English. She could speak very good English, so she told a lot of stories to Japanese, to the American soldiers, sailors. Again, in the movie, Flag of Our Fathers, the soldiers got around to listen to Tokyo Rose, right? Of course, she told stories like, you're fighting, but your wife is at home, right? They're not loyal to you, right? They're having affairs, that kind of thing, right? Again, each side can tell its own story. So is this about cultural relativism? Is there a universal standard? Is there a universal value or truth? Each one is good in its own way. how do we make judgment? How do we decide? How can we settle on a fact? Right. I mean, again, that puzzles me a lot. I mean, again, I don't have answers, right? So I don't want to pretend I know everything. Another one is this. I mean, so far so good, or what? Is that okay? Actually, is that okay? Actually?
Yeah, that's fine.
Emotivism. So when we disagree, when we make an argument, we are not arguing about the fact. We're trying to influence each other by ways how we feel. Emotion is about emotion. It's about your feel. It's about your feelings, right? Moral judgment cannot be true or false because they do not make any claim. It's like, okay, I mean, when we talk about, in my PS Math class, is abortion right? You may say, abortion is disgusting, right? That's emotion. That's your attitude, right? And you are not making a moral claim. It's just how you feel. Or maybe another one, shoplifting, that's bad, right? So everything is like, do we reduce truth from how we feel? Isn't that right? Can we keep away from the facts and just argue artificially based on our feelings, attitudes? Again, that's a question for you to think about. Is that right? Is that good? Does that make sense? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember in the movie, Ito, Lieutenant Ito. Usually, when you raise the knife, the sword, the samurai sword, you behead. You cut the head, right? He was attempting to cut the heads of the two soldiers who were suspected of running away to surrender. Right? The officers could kill the soldiers if they believe you're not doing your duty. They can shoot you. They can use swords to behead the soldiers' heads. So that's brutal, right? So it's not a bravery. Barbaric. Again, in the movie, they commit suicide, right? They put the pin of the grenade, and they hug them, embrace them, and right, and explode it. So their bodies were like into pieces. Barbaric. But again, who's standard? Who decides your barbaric or your heroic? Who decides? Who makes this decision? That's Mr. Eastwood, right? And that is the Japanese actor who played also in Last Samurai. Seen that movie? Some of you, not many. You don't see many foreign movies, huh? Yeah, somehow I got that feeling too. Some people say, in the United States, you don't see many foreign movies. That's kind of true. In the theaters, television theater, you don't see foreign movies. They are just American movies. We're not exposed very much to foreign movies or documentaries, unless you go to Sundance. I like watching them. I like watching all kinds of movies, especially war movies. What do you think so far? Is that good? Trying to. That's for sure. We look at the world from our experiences, our perspectives. But our mentalities, our outlooks are very much shaped by how you are brought up. I mean, we say everybody is born equal, but are we socialized equally? I mean, do we grow up in the same environment? Of course not. So where you come from, who you are, affects the way you look at the thing. Even the same issue, same thing. Different people have different opinions. Of course, everybody knows this. Now, what about your racial background? What about your cultural background? I mean, I'm from China. I told you I told you yesterday. I came from China many years ago. The movies I watched when I was young in China, they were the movies about how great the Communist Party was, right? How great China was. It's very black and white. United States is portrayed like imperialists, invaders. So, did that influence my worldview? Yes. But when I came here, I watched some other films. I read some other books. I realized some of them, maybe most of them, were not so true. As you're opposed to different things, I mean, you have to think. The reason we are exposed to different ideas, movies, or talks, or books, is because we want to seek the diversity. Heritage is diversity, right? If you say, you have already formed your opinion. I mean, what I see is what I see. That's what I believe. You just isolate yourself, right? When we say you have to be open-minded, that means you have to risk your comfort, right? For instance, I think the professor's job is to challenge your cherished belief, because my cherished belief was challenged when I was here, and that changed. I don't mean everybody has to change, or I have to change your belief in the fundamental principles of democracy. That should be there. But I want to challenge you to think from other different approaches. Again, to do that, the first thing is to be, in my view, is to be curious. I mean, you got somebody who is from a different environment or cultural context. You got to be curious about where this guy is coming from and what he thinks. You got to have some concern. It's not like you got foreign students who come from Yemen, Africa. I mean, right? Have you talked with them? I mean, did you approach to these students? Did you say hi? Maybe not. Let me see. Again, so far so good. No problem so far. Questions? Okay. What's the next one? How about this? Before we go to the next one, let me tell you this. That's what I read from Obama's memoir. One day he was waiting for his mom to finish her work in the American embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia. Obama was sitting there, he got nothing to do. So he was reading those magazines in a pile, Time, Suddenly Obama noticed the photo that showed a black person. Obama was, of course, already aware of his race as black. But that photo struck him so deeply. He was shocked. Because the photo depicts the black man very negatively. In Obama's words, it's like, the black man's skin is ghostly depicted. So that's the first time he realized that his race could be bad. And he was 9 years old. When not just me, and people from other countries, when they come here, take me for example. I'm from China. Chinese people, the Han is majority, 95%, and then you got Mongols, Manchus, Tibetan. I heard something about racial discrimination, something like that in the United States. I didn't think very much, but when I was here in the first year, I experienced something, which I felt like really that's something I had read in China. Sometimes people you identify with is mistreated. You really feel like, right? You feel grieved, right? So Obama's example is very clear. So when you think that way, you can understand where they come from. How about this one? I don't mean by claiming relativism. Okay, you have your view, I have my view. There's no commonly agreed truth, so anything goes. Anything goes. You hold your opinion. I got mine. This is how I feel. I don't mean this, but I still don't know where's the line between relativism and absolutism. Relativism versus absolutism. There got to be some, common universal standards. For example, we got a golden rule: do unto others what you like others do unto you. Right? That's universal. Murder is wrong. That's universal. Murder, rape, they are crimes, universally condemned. Doesn't matter where you go. For where's the line? Relativism is a moral or cultural. How far can you go? How far does cultural relativism allow you to go? Where's the line? Right? So if you got a cultural relativism, you think like you got a license, you do anything according to your standard, and you claim that this is how I feel, anything goes. That's not good. We got to have, again, universal standard. But to what extent do you stand there and say, okay, here is relativism, and this is absolutism? So I leave this question to you to think about. I have no answer. So one more. I think this is. This is what I spent some time last night. Oh, noise. And I made this formula. Multiculturalism equals epistemological relativism. Epistemology is part of philosophy. It's about how to seek knowledge, or what is knowledge. So as far as seeking knowledge, I would say we must be open-minded. We must welcome differences. The next one is pluralism. Pluralism is let out the opinions from all sides. Everybody should have an opportunity to express freedom of speech, of course. And then empathy. Empathy is nothing that's sympathy. Empathy means you have to stand in the shoes of others. Empathy. Sympathy, different. You show sympathy. You show pity. No. Empathy is more important in regard to multiculturalism. And the ability to think in the shoes of other people. That's something we need to acquire. And then that leads to tolerance. Tolerance. If we can tolerate each other, we will have less conflicts. We'll have less tension. We'll have less wars. People who start the war usually are the people who think they got the truth. They know what the truth is. In other words, absolutists. They don't want to give ground. Does this make sense? So far. Yeah. Okay.
I think, like myself as a Christian, if you are a Christian, you should be a Christian and know why. So you should look at other, different cultures, different religions, and understand why you're a Christian, why you believe what you believe. I think that, like, for instance, some people might say they're Christian, but no. They might say that they're a Christian, but not necessarily know why. They're just a Christian because, maybe their parents were or their family was. So I think it's good to study different areas and understand why you have your point of view.
So Christians versus other religions. If people go to the same, today, people go to different churches on Sunday morning. They're exposed to different teachings of different religions. The point is that if you're open-minded, if you see the common tenets of the religions of others, you can be tolerant. You can be tolerant. If you hold just one idea, you stick on it. You don't want to to give ground. You don't want to. You don't want to give up. Of course, no one wants to give up his religion. But the thing is, on the other hand, you need to know what other people think, what other people are, or what other religions are about.
If you guys have questions, raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone around, or comments so you can speak into it.
Just recently, President Obama been speaking with the Dalai Lama, and you consider, like Tibet, and I did limited reading on it, but it's like China kind of wants to wash out the Tibet culture with, just by running so many people through there that, and in many ways, it's a beautiful culture.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if you have any comments on that, but
Yes.
that's culturalism.
Right. I think I can feel where the Dalai Lama comes from. Dalai Lama does not want to promote independence from China. He only wants to have some kind of self-rule, autonomy in Tibet. So it's, to me, I mean, it's very moderate. It's like the middle way. The Chinese government feels like Dalai Lama is trying to deceive the public opinion of the American people. I don't see that way. I don't think the Dalai Lama is trying to deceive. I think Dalai Lama is very sincere. The fear the Chinese government has is that the Dalai Lama claims to be, to be self-rule, in Tibet. But the Tibet in Dalai Lama's view is greater Tibet. It's not just Tibet today in China, it's like province. Greater Tibet includes other provinces. If you lump those provinces together for Tibet, it's like 1/3 of the territory of China. So if Tibet comes to China, he will be the leader of 1/3 of China. The Chinese government says, no way, I don't want you to come back like that. Tibet versus Greater Tibet. You look at the map, today's map for Tibet is smaller than the Greater. Greater would include Gansu, Qinghai, Sichuan, and some others. But basically, this is province nearby, near Tibet. So that's a fear. That's a fear. But I think the Chinese stubbornness actually alienates a lot of people who are sympathetic with the Dalai Lama. The Chinese government's attitude is actually pushing Dalai Lama to a different approach. It gives the separatists, Tibetans, a reason. Look, I mean, Dalai Lama's so-called middle way does not work. So we have to mobilize ourselves. We have to take up arms. We have to organize into like armed forces. So yeah, to me, I believe in Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is a very humane, nice individual. I've never met him, but of course I've been to Tibet only once, many years ago. They try to hide Dalai Lama's photos because that's against the law. If you show Dalai Lama's photo or portrait in your living room openly, that's against the law. Yeah, Nathan, you over here.
And I think on this issue, and some other ones, especially in China, the Chinese government can't be seen to make a reversal. Even if some of the members of the party were to think that maybe policy should be changed, maybe things should be different, maybe a dialogue should be opened up on a more equal basis. Yet if they were to be seen to be admitting any sort of mistake in this area, if they were to be seen to be backtracking, then this would be a cause of great embarrassment to them. And I don't think that that's only the Chinese government, but other governments also that have a similar problem where they can't be seen to be wrong.
Right. I agree with you, Nathan. They do have dialogues between the Chinese government in Beijing and the Tibetan delegations. So far this year, just finished the 9th round of talks, just like 2 weeks ago. They do talk directly. Dalai Lama is not allowed to go back to China. So Dalai Lama sent his representatives, emissaries to Beijing to talk. But those talks are just empty talks, lip services. They don't go anywhere. What I see is that the Chinese government's policy today toward Tibet is to wait, do nothing. They wait for what? They wait for the Dalai Lama to die. Dalai Lama is like 76, is that right? 76-year-old. And the Chinese government has already prepared a successor. Dalai Lama is Dalai Lama 14th. What about Dalai Lama 15th? China government said they got a Dalai Lama 15th already. So the spiritual leader is no longer in India, he will be in China. And certainly that Dalai Lama will be pro-China. So just like, we're waiting for Fidel Castro to die. Sometimes just do Taoism, right? Taoism, the best thing to do is do nothing. Doing nothing, achieve more. I mean, we taught that, right? We said that. Lao Tzu, Taoism. Hey, Gordon.
Hi, thank you for your talk. It was very interesting. I'd like to challenge you a little bit on this formula, multiculturalism, epistemological relativism, and in the afternoons when I usually get very postmodern, I read postmodernist literature, and from my understanding, this concept of multiculturalism, I think it could be also politically interpreted by coming from something called white guilt. And then I think some postmodernists would say, well, colonialism used to impose so many Western values on indigenous nations. And then in post-colonialism, what we need to do is to remove this habit and say, well, we have to respect the local cultures because imposing Western culture on indigenous nations or civilizations was a wrong thing to do and created a lot of evil. Right. And I agree that if you agree to that assumption that this leads to epistemological relativism and pluralism, but I'm a little bit puzzled about, not a little bit, but a lot, puzzled by empathy and then equals tolerance. Why would I have to be tolerant to cultures that are, shall we say, against the values that you yourself said are universally human, right? For example, the right to life, or the right to not being raped, or the right to not being exploited, right? Why would I be tolerant to, for example, a Nazi culture, or a culture of Somali tribes, or a culture of Taliban, right? Why would I respect it? Cultures, is it just because of so-called white guilt from the multiculturalism coming from?
I got your point, Gordon. Why should we care? Why should we tolerate, the diversity, the differences? I think, to be practical, I mean, the United States is becoming more and more diverse. We got globalized people from other countries coming here. We're doing business. We're doing trade with countries all over. We're exposed to more different cultures. Although I said, we don't see many foreign movies, but again, we got more different culture, different people. So it's something that you have a choice. I think it's something you have to. If you want to survive in this already integrated cultural, cosmopolitan society, you got to adjust yourself. It's just like before 1950s, you don't need to have a college degree to get a job. Today, college degree is a must, right? 50s, 40s, 60s, high school degree was enough to go to GM, to work on the assembly line. You make good money. Time has changed. We got to change ourselves. By the way, cultural relativism originates from anthropology. In 1920s, the scholars went out to the colonized countries. They found, the cultures were so different. So they said the difference of the cultures were not. That does not mean, they're backwards. Just different. again, the superiority, the European superiority of that kind of mentality. Right? So relativism makes us think like, yeah, there's some other things we need to learn. It lowers your status. You put your status or yourself among other people so that you're just like one of the equals. Before you're looking down. You're talking down to people. Now you're talking to or talking with. I think that's a contribution by relativism. Again, how far do you go? Right? Do you say even Hitler got a reason to kill Jewish people, 6 million? Can you go that far? I don't think so. Can you say even Joseph Stalin got reason to purge, to kill the people in the Soviet Union? Or you can even say by claiming relativism, Chairman Mao, also got the reason to have like 20 million people, Chinese, to starve.
I have a question. It's a concern about moral relativism. I was thinking, one of the ways that you described maybe finding like common ground is like the golden rule on do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But you don't really need to look too far to see how that's abused. If someone has the power to do something to others and they can't do that back unto them, then that really becomes irrelevant and you lose all objectivity.
Okay. I guess what you're saying is the concept of reciprocity. I think you're saying is like the way you treat other people will be the way other people will treat you. So that's reciprocity. So everything you do, you have to be careful. I mean, what would be the consequences if you do this to other people without thinking what other people would do to you later? You're risking. Right? Of course, you'll be treated badly, just like you treat other people. I think is that right? I mean, the reciprocity. I think I can condense what he said into this concept. Or maybe I'm wrong. Go ahead.
Just to respond, what if they have no power? I mean, there really is no incentive for someone to follow that kind of rule if they can just oppress people and nothing happens from it. Like that, people can't do back unto them what they're doing to them or what they're doing to other people, So you lose that accountability when you have, one party that's weaker than the other.
Oh, okay, I see. I'm sorry. Now I got your. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm doing two things maybe in my mind. Yeah, this is a good question. I mean, you are powerless. You're weak in the face of strong. What do you have in your possession to get back, to respond? I think it's time. It's a matter of time. Maybe now you got nothing to equalize you with the strong, but eventually, I think as time goes, as society moves, eventually the truth will be found. I think the truth is there. Sometimes it's just the way we observe. The way we observe, the material we get, what is fed back to us, they change. Now, at the time you're awake, it does not mean the truth disappears. It will be coming out later. And as you can see, the society moves more rapidly, and many things that were permitted are no longer tolerated, or many things that were tolerated are no longer permitted. Do we still tolerate child labor? No. Right? We don't use child labor. We don't use child soldier. I mean, it's already a norm, social norm. It takes time to become a social norm. Once it becomes a social norm, it's there, it's established. It's hard to remove, to reverse, to go back. And time is a good help. And today's world, I think another thing is, you can see many other examples. Do we still kill the messengers just because they deliver the bad news? That's old tradition, that's old practice. Do we still kidnap the state officials as hostage? We don't do it anymore. But that's popular before. Time can heal, and the word opinion can also help the weak side. I think this time did I answer kind of better, good? I'm sorry.
It seems that there's an in-group and out-group mentality. We keep the tolerance and understanding for the in-group, and the intolerance and oftentimes justification for the violence for the out-groups. Do you see in your research that gap between in-group and out-group mentality and the treatment of those two groups, whether it's government or it's cultures?
Both. Sorry.
Absolutely. Do you see that as we become more of a global society, do you see that changing for more, to expand the in-group mentality and maybe shrinking the out-group mentality as far as culturally speaking and through the violence and the justification for that violence?
Good question. I thought about it. I remember when I came to the United States many years ago, I got a tendency to look for my hometown people from Beijing. I was born in Beijing. So when I met people from Beijing, it was like, wow, we're friends already. Later, I noticed I changed that mentality to another outlier, like China. If you're from China, you're my friend. Oh, I'm my friend. I mean, you feel like, right? Naturally, you got a feeling like we're in together, in group. Later, Asian. It doesn't matter whether you come from China or Vietnam or Japan. We're Asians, friends. I mean, so as time goes, the boundary is expanding. So the in-group grows. Today, I can embrace anyone, I think. Yeah, I do think that. I can embrace anyone. So that in-group grows as time goes by, as you grow up. So it's rare for me to find an out-group. Like last year, I went to Taiwan. Taiwan was the, Taiwanese government was the enemy. My dad fought against the Chiang Kai-shek, nationalist government. So I went to Taiwan. I felt like, before I, still like enemy. Like they must be cold because I'm from mainland. But no. So maybe that's because of age. Another reason, right? As I'm old, it's easy to accept, to understand, to tolerate. So again, the line of in-group extends. Now you are all my friends. Really. Yeah. Is that right? Correct? Yeah. Brad?
Brad, do you have a question? No? Can I ask a question, Dr. Bai? Since I have the microphone in my hand?
Yeah.
One of the last questions that you posed was this concept of the role of faculty in teaching diversity, which is at the heart of this conference. This is what our department prides itself on. But one thing that you said struck me, and that is that for you, at least, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you had said, but that it's a matter of survival in the modern world that we become more empathetic and more tolerant of others around us. And I agree with that. I think that as the world flattens, if I can use that ridiculously overused phrase, that we do have to interact and rub shoulders with people that are very different from us. And how do we function in a world that's much closer together, metaphorically speaking, if we don't seek to understand those others? But I think in the United States in particular, and I'll go back, I don't know what the student's name is, but the issue of power is a really important one. We are one of the most powerful nations in the world, and we can afford, a lot of times, I think, to hide behind our military expenditures and our cultural traditions, and to not look at how our actions affect other people or how other people might perceive us. And in this country in particular, it becomes very difficult to try to teach diversity because it's often perceived as being anti-American to get someone to view how someone else may experience that power relationship. And I'm wondering how you might deal with that in your classes as you're teaching, for example, international relations.
Yeah, we do talk about that. The trend of the world, the future of the United States. United States is empire, superpower. But sometimes I remind the students of the decline of the rise and decline. It's like cycle thing. No empire will last forever. You can trace back to the Spanish Empire, the British Empire, now United States Empire. So I don't mean the United States is already down the hill. But according to that cycle thing, yeah, China is rising. Right? There's a new book, One China Rules the World. So relatively, other countries' powers are rising at the very fast rate. I don't mean, I can predict which country will catch up, or supersede the United States. But we have to be ready. We have to be ready. Another thing is just moral thing. Like Obama said, we have to set moral examples. We're superpower in terms of military hard power, but we also need to be superpower in soft power. And soft power refers to your civilization, your culture, your everything that defines you, right? Can be soft, and soft thing today is very powerful. It's very powerful. Just like the other day, I told my student, I just read a book. I can't remember the title of the book. It's a school built by an American journalist in Afghanistan. He built like 20 schools already by himself. And he asked this question. He said, if you make a Tomahawk cruise missile, it's like $180,000, maybe around that range. With $180,000, how many public schools can you build in Afghanistan? Which one can make you secure? You make one bomb, you accidentally kill the civilians, innocent civilians, you ruin everything. Right? But by building schools, you teach them, you instill the notion of democracy. Right? So in that regard, we also need to be modest, open-minded. World is changing. It is, as we are speaking right now.
While on this topic, I wanted to point out, too, that the strategy in Afghanistan has, as we talked about in IR, recently changed. So now the #1 goal is not to attack the enemy, but to protect the people of Afghanistan. And we've been making strides to show them we're not there to impose on their culture, and we think that's the way to win the war now, and I think that's a big step.
Yeah, exactly. I told Stephen, you were there, right, yesterday? You watched General McGreal, McChrystal. Yeah, his interview on 60 Minutes. He said that. It's not the war. It's not about how many people you kill. The war today is about how many hearts you can win. That says a lot. How many hearts, how many souls you can convert, you can win. So do you use military powers? Or maybe both, but which one is more important? Which one can change the next generation from having hatred, right, to having love? Remember Stephen? Did we see that movie yesterday? The Cradle, 60 Minutes. Right.
Hi, I'm just kind of curious why your formula ends with tolerance, because in the step right before it, we have empathy, and if we have empathy, then shouldn't we be more apt to embrace instead of tolerate? Like, tolerance in my mind has a negative connectivity. Like, can tolerate an annoying classmate sitting next to me, then does not necessarily mean I like them. And shouldn't we get to that step to where we do like them, build a relationship or something like that?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. Tolerance can be to bear with somebody because the person is kind of irritating, annoying. Well, yeah, that's what it means. I mean, it doesn't mean tolerance does not mean you have to be a friend. It doesn't mean you have to be a friend immediately, or you have to be superficially warm. Tolerance means that you can understand what he says, where he comes from, and you can put yourself into the shoes of the other people. That's tolerance. If you understand where a guy is coming from, it changes you. I mean, it enhances how you look at the world. It gives you another angle. Right? It gives you another to look at the world. I mean, it helps you to make sense. That's tolerance. Maybe the equal signs, I think the equal sign should be changed to that sign, like arrow. Right? So multiculturalism leads to relativism, leads to pluralism, leads to. So I think there should be the arrow sign instead of the equal sign. Yeah.
We're almost out of time, but
Okay.
you have one more question, Dr. Bai? Is there anybody who has another question?
Yeah, anyone?
How about a round of applause for Dr. Bai?
Thank you. Thank you.
If you would be so kind as to fill out those evaluation forms and place them on the